Are you having a mental breakdown? Michael Torres, my direct supervisor at Anderson and Pierce Financial, stared at me like I'd just announced I was moving to Mars. You want to quit your VP position to sell tacos? I sat across from him in the glass-walled office on the 47th floor of downtown Los Angeles, the morning sun casting long shadows across his mahogany desk. My resignation letter lay between us, crisp white paper against dark wood. Not just tacos, I said, keeping my voice steady. Traditional Mexican street food. My grandmother's recipes. Michael leaned back in his leather chair, running a hand through his silver-streaked hair. Sophia, you make $200,000 a year. Your bonus last quarter was bigger than most people's annual salary. And you want to throw it all away for street food? My name is Sophia Reyes, and until that moment, I'd spent 8 years climbing the corporate ladder at one of LA's most prestigious financial firms. I had the corner office, the designer suits, the respect of my peers. Everything I thought I wanted when I graduated from Stanford Business School. Everything except happiness. I've made my decision, I said, standing up. My last day will be in 2 weeks. Michael shook his head. At least take some time to think about it. Maybe a vacation. I've thought about it for months. I straightened my blazer. A $2,000 piece of armor I wouldn't need much longer. Thank you for everything, Michael. As I walked back to my office, whispers followed. News traveled fast in corporate settings, especially news this bizarre. A VP of financial strategy leaving to start a food truck. It had to be a joke. By lunchtime, my inbox was flooded with messages from colleagues, ranging from concerned to condescending. Have you lost your mind? Wrote Sarah from marketing. Midlife crisis hitting early. Joked Brad from risk management. Hope you like being poor. Added James, my former mentor. I closed my email and looked out my office window at the sprawling Los Angeles landscape below. Somewhere down there, my grandmother's small restaurant had once served the best Mexican food in the city. Before rising rents and changing demographics forced her to close, before she had to watch her life's work disappear. Mija, she told me on her deathbed 2 months ago, pressing a worn notebook into my hands. Promise me our recipes won't die with me. That notebook now sat in my desk drawer, its pages yellowed, but the handwriting still clear. Every recipe, every secret, every technique she'd learned from her mother and grandmother before her. 3 generations of culinary artistry, waiting to be reborn. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Diana. They're taking bets on how long you'll last before coming back begging for your job. Office pool is up to $5,000. I smiled. Let them bet. They didn't know what I knew. What they saw: an impulsive decision, a career suicide, a prestigious position abandoned for a pipe dream. What they couldn't see: 18 months of careful planning. The business plan I developed using the same skills I applied to multi-million-dollar corporate strategies. The market research showing a growing demand for authentic, high-quality street food. The savings account containing enough to sustain me for 2 years. And most importantly, they didn't see the test runs I'd been doing every weekend for the past year. Selling my grandmother's recipes at farmers markets under the name Abuela's Street Kitchen. They didn't know that I was already turning a profit, that I had a loyal following, that people drove from other cities just to taste our food. I pulled out my grandmother's notebook, running my fingers over the worn cover. Inside, along with the recipes, was a black and white photo from 1962. My grandmother standing proudly in front of her first restaurant, Rye's Authentic Mexican Kitchen. I'll make you proud, Abuela, I whispered. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of handover meetings and exit interviews. My colleagues alternated between treating me like I had terminal illness and making jokes about my future career serving corporate dropouts their lunch. On my last day, I cleared out my office while wearing jeans and a t-shirt, a small act of rebellion against 8 years of formal business attire. As I packed my awards and certificates into a box, Michael appeared in my doorway. "Last chance to change your mind," he said. "The position's yours until end of day." I shook my head. "I appreciate everything I've learned here, Michael, but this is something I need to do." He sighed. "Well, when it doesn't work out, give me a call, though I can't guarantee you'll come back at the same level." "Thank you," I said, not bothering to argue. "But I won't be coming back." As I walked through the office for the last time, carrying my box of belongings, I heard snickers and whispered comments. "There goes her career. Wonder how long before she regrets this. Have fun being poor." The last comment came from James, loud enough to ensure I heard it. I stopped and turned to face him, smiling. "You know what, James? I will have fun, because unlike you, I won't spend the next 20 years wondering what if." The elevator doors closed on his stunned expression, and just like that, my corporate career was over. But my real journey was just beginning. The following Monday, instead of putting on a power suit and heading to my climate-controlled office, I drove to a warehouse in East LA. Inside waited my investment in the future, a fully equipped food truck, gleaming silver in the early morning light. I'd spent the past month working with a custom food truck builder, designing every detail: state-of-the-art cooking equipment, efficient storage systems, and a service window large enough to let customers watch their food being prepared, just like they used to at my grandmother's restaurant. The exterior featured hand-painted artwork, vibrant colors, traditional Mexican designs, and my grandmother's portrait watching over everything. Above it all, in bold letters, "Abuela's Street Kitchen, authentic Mexican soul food." "Looking good, Jefa," called out Miguel, my first employee. He'd been my grandmother's sous chef for 15 years before her restaurant closed. Now at 62, he was ready to help bring her recipes back to life. "Ready for this?" I asked, unlocking the truck. He grinned, tying on his apron. "Been ready for years. Just waiting for you to realize this is where you belong." We spent that first morning prep cooking, following my grandmother's precise instructions. The marinades had to be made fresh daily. The salsas needed specific chili combinations. Every tortilla would be hand-pressed moments before cooking. By 11:30 a.m., we were parked in our designated spot near a cluster of office buildings in downtown LA, the same area where I used to spend $20 on mediocre salads for lunch. "Think anyone will come?" Miguel asked as we finished our final preparations. I checked my phone, pulling up the Instagram account I'd been building for months. The post announcing our location had over 500 likes. "They'll come." And they did. By noon, we had a line stretching around the corner. Word had spread through social media and the local foodie community. Everyone wanted to try the corporate VP turned food truck chef. I worked the window while Miguel handled the grill, greeting each customer personally, explaining the dishes, sharing stories about the recipes. Every plate that went out was a piece of my heritage, my grandmother's legacy. "Holy shit," breathed a man in an expensive suit after biting into our signature birria taco. "This is better than any Mexican food I've had in LA." "Tell your friends," I smiled, already preparing the next order. By 2 p.m., We'd sold out completely. My feet ached, my hair smelled like cooking oil, and my once manicured hands were stained with adobo sauce. I had never been happier. As we cleaned up for the day, Miguel nudged me. "Look who's here." I turned to see James and a group from Anderson and Pierce, standing across the street, staring at our truck with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. They'd probably expected to find me struggling, maybe even regretting my decision. Instead, they saw a sold-out food truck and a line of disappointed customers asking when we'd be back tomorrow. I waved at them, genuine smile on my face. James turned away quickly, herding his group back toward their office. That evening, as I counted our first day's earnings, nearly triple what I'd projected, my phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Office is buzzing. Someone posted a review of your food on the company's Slack. They can't believe it's actually good." I laughed, then opened my grandmother's notebook to review tomorrow's prep list. On the inside cover, she'd written a message I'd never noticed before. "Success isn't about where you work, Mija. It's about putting your heart into what you do." As I planned out our next day's menu, I realized something. For the first time in my career, I wasn't watching the clock or dreading Monday mornings. I was excited to get up and work, eager to serve each customer, proud of every dish we created. They thought I was crazy to leave a six-figure job for a food truck. But what they didn't understand was that some dreams are worth more than a steady paycheck. And this was just the beginning. 3 months after leaving Anderson and Pierce, I sat at my small home office desk reviewing our numbers. The laptop screen glowed in the early morning darkness, spreadsheets replacing the financial models I once created for billion-dollar corporations. But these numbers told a different story, one of exponential growth. Abuela's street kitchen had not just survived, it had exploded. Our daily revenue was triple my initial projections. We'd added a second truck within the first month, then a third 6 weeks later. Each one consistently sold out. My phone buzzed. A message from Louis, my newest hire, running truck number 3. Line already forming at USC. Students spreading the word about the breakfast burritos. I smiled, remembering how my grandmother used to say good food doesn't need advertising. Word of mouth was our only marketing, yet each location had regulars who showed up daily, bringing friends, sharing photos on social media. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in." Diana walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. After seeing our success, she'd quit her own corporate job to help manage our growing operation. "You need to see this," she said, setting down the coffee and pulling up something on her phone. "Someone just posted about us on LA Food Scene's Instagram." The post showed our original truck, line wrapped around the block. From corporate DP to food truck queen, how Sophia Reyes is revolutionizing LA's street food scene. Not just authentic Mexican food, but a powerful story of choosing passion over prestige. "That's not all," Diana continued, scrolling. 3 major food festivals want us as featured vendors. The LA Times wants to do a profile." And she paused for effect. The Food Network called. I leaned back in my chair, thinking about how much had changed in just 3 months. We now had 15 employees, all paid above industry standard with health benefits, something I'd insisted on from the start. Many were family members of former workers from my grandmother's restaurant, carrying on her legacy of authentic cuisine. "There's something else," Diana said, her tone shifting. "Anderson and Pierce's new building, the one they're moving to next month, they want us to be the primary lunch vendor in their corporate plaza." I nearly choked on my coffee. "You're kidding." Got the email this morning. Apparently, half their employees have been walking 6 blocks to catch our trucks. Management finally caved. The irony was almost too perfect. The same company that had mocked my decision now wanted to partner with us. My phone buzzed again. Miguel. Need to talk. Supply issue with the tortilla masa. Vendor can't keep up with our volume. And there it was, the daily reminder that success brings its own challenges. We'd grown so fast that our suppliers were struggling to meet our demand for the high-quality, specific ingredients my grandmother's recipes required. One problem at a time, I muttered, pulling up our vendor contacts. Call everyone for a team meeting at 2 p.m. We need to discuss expansion strategy. By noon, I was at our commissary kitchen, a space we'd rented for prep work and storage. The energy was electric as our prep teams worked, music playing, aromas of chilies and spices filling the air. Chifa, called out Carmen, our head prep cook. Come taste this new salsa verde. I added episode like your grandmother's notes suggested. I sampled the salsa, closing my eyes as flavors exploded across my tongue. Perfect. Abuela would be proud. Sophia. Diana rushed in, waving her phone. You need to see what's happening downtown. She pulled up a live Instagram story. James, my former mentor from Anderson and Pierce, was doing a walking food review. He stood in line at our truck, speaking to the camera. Yes, this is the same food truck started by my former VP, he said, trying to sound casual. The one we all thought was crazy. Well, he held up a half-eaten birria taco. I hate to admit it, but this might be the best decision she ever made. This food is incredible. The comments were flowing. Wait, a VP quit to start this. Best tacos in LA. Can't believe corporate didn't see this coming. He's been in line 3 times this week. Diana grinned. Pretty sure he's becoming a regular. The afternoon team meeting filled our small office space. 15 people crammed in, each bringing updates and challenges. The USC location is overwhelming truck 3, Lewis reported. Students are trying to pre-order through Instagram. Downtown wants us to add breakfast service, added Elena from truck 2. They're offering to fast-track the permits. Our tortilla supplier can't scale up, Miguel confirmed. Says they'd need new equipment to meet our volume. I looked around the room at these people who'd taken a chance on my vision. Some had left stable jobs. Others had come out of retirement. All believed in bringing my grandmother's recipes to a new generation. Okay, I said, pulling out my grandmother's notebook. Let's solve this one step at a time. First, the supply issue. Miguel, remember how Abuela used to make tortillas? He grinned. In-house, old-school method. What if we did that? Convert part of the commissary into a tortilla production facility. Diana was already calculating. Initial equipment cost would be high, but we control quality and supply chain. Do it, I decided. Get bids for the equipment. Next, expansion. We're turning away too much business. Time to add trucks 4 and 5. Luis, Alina, start recruiting and training teams. What about the Anderson and Pierce offer? Diana asked. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the story of my departure. I smiled. Tell them we'll consider it. At premium pricing, and we want Signage telling our story. As the meeting wrapped up, I held up my grandmother's notebook. One more thing. Next week marks what would have been Abuela's 80th birthday. In her honor, we're doing something special. I outlined my plan. 1 day of original menu prices from her 1962 restaurant, Every truck would serve her signature dishes exactly as she made them. We'd lose money that day, but it wasn't about profit. Start promoting it tomorrow, I told Diana. Let's show Lyle what real Mexican soul food means. That evening, after everyone had left, I sat alone in the commissary kitchen. The space still smelled of chiles and spices, echoing with the day's energy. My phone showed missed calls from 3 different restaurant groups wanting to discuss partnerships. The Food Network had emailed again about a possible show. A major business magazine wanted to profile the VP who traded Wall Street for street food. I opened my grandmother's notebook, finding a photo of her in front of her first restaurant. Next to it, I pinned a recent photo of our first food truck, lines of people waiting eagerly. Did you know, Abuela? I whispered. Did you know this is what would happen when you gave me these recipes? A new message popped up. A customer review with a photo. Brought my abuela here today. She cried because it reminded her of home. Thank you for keeping traditions alive. I wiped tears from my eyes, then started planning tomorrow's menu. Because success isn't just about profits or headlines. It's about honoring where you come from while building something new. And we were just getting started. 1 year after walking away from my 6-figure corporate job, I stood on the rooftop of our new headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. The morning sun glinted off a fleet of 20 food trucks in the parking lot below, each bearing the now famous Abuela's Street Kitchen logo. The numbers are in, Diana said, joining me at the railing. Last month's revenue hit $4.2 million. The valuation report puts us at just over $50 million. I smiled, remembering James's mocking words. Have fun being poor. Anderson and Pierce's current market cap was $42 million, and they were struggling. Turned out their new building's food court, which they'd hoped would feature our trucks, remained empty. We declined their offer, instead opening our own brick-and-mortar restaurant just 2 blocks away. The Wall Street Journal piece just dropped. Diana held up her phone. Want to read it? The headline caught my eye. From corporate dropout to culinary empire. How one woman's food truck revolution is reshaping the industry. But before I could read more, Miguel burst through the roof access door. Sophia, you need to come see this. We followed him down to the test kitchen, where our development team worked on new recipes and trained staff. A crowd had gathered around one of the prep stations. In the center stood Carmen, tears streaming down her face, holding her phone on video chat. On the screen, I recognized her grandmother, one of my grandmother's oldest friends. Senora Maria. I pushed forward. What's wrong? The elderly woman was also crying, but smiling. Sofia Maniga. I just saw your trucks in Mexico City. My grandson sent me pictures. Your abuela's recipes, her legacy. It's come home. My heart skipped. Our international expansion had started 3 months ago, carefully selecting partners who would maintain our standards and traditions. Mexico City was our first location outside the U.S., and it meant everything to honor the cuisine's origins. 20 trucks in Mexico City, Diana whispered. All sold out by 2 p.m. their first day. I touched the screen gently. Senora Maria, those recipes, they're your history too. All of yours. I looked around at our staff, many of them children and grandchildren of my grandmother's original restaurant workers. This success belongs to all of us. The afternoon brought another surprise. A sleek black car pulled up to our headquarters, and out stepped Michael Torres, my former supervisor from Anderson and Pierce. Sophia, he called out as I met him in the lobby. Got a minute? We sat in my office, Not a glass-walled corporate showpiece, but a warm space filled with family photos and cooking awards. My grandmother's original notebook sat in a glass display case on the wall, next to her first restaurant sign. "I'll be direct," Michael said, looking uncomfortable. "I'm leaving Anderson and Pierce. The company's downsizing." And he hesitated. I was hoping to discuss opportunities here. I leaned back in my chair, remembering his words from a year ago. "When it doesn't work out, give me a call." "What kind of opportunities did you have in mind?" He straightened his tie. "I have 20 years of corporate finance experience. Your company's growing exponentially. You need someone to manage that growth." "Actually," I smiled, "we have someone amazing handling our finances." I pressed the intercom. "Diana, can you join us?" Diana walked in, recognition flashing across her face. "Hello, Michael. You remember Diana Martinez?" My former colleague who everyone said was throwing away her career to join a food truck business. "She's our CFO now. Just closed our series of funding round. Very successfully." Michael's face fell slightly. "I see. Well, perhaps there are other positions." "We're always hiring line cooks," I said kindly. "Starting pay is $25 an hour, full benefits, profit sharing. We believe in valuing everyone who contributes to our success." He stood up quickly. "I should go. Congratulations on everything, Sophia. You proved us all wrong." After he left, Diana burst out laughing. "Did you see his face? Remember when he said you'd be serving corporate dropouts their lunch? Now we're employing them instead." The next morning, I arrived early at our flagship restaurant, the same location where my grandmother's original place had stood. We bought the building 6 months ago, renovating it to match her old photos while adding modern touches. Inside, prep teams were already working. The tortilla facility hummed next door, producing thousands of fresh tortillas daily. Upstairs, our culinary training program was in session, teaching new employees not just cooking skills, but the history behind each dish. My phone buzzed. A message from our Mexico City partner. "Lines around the block again. When can we add more trucks?" Before I could reply, Diana rushed in. "Sophia, you need to turn on CNBC right now." We huddled around the office TV as the business news anchor spoke. In a surprising turn of events, Anderson and Pierce Financial announced major layoffs today as their stock hit a 5-year low. Meanwhile, former VP Sophia Rice's Abuela's Kitchen empire continues its explosive growth. Sources value the company at over $50 million, with international expansion accelerating. They cut to a clip of James, my former mentor, being interviewed outside Anderson and Pierce's building. "Looking back," he said, "looking tired. We were too focused on traditional metrics. We missed the bigger picture." Sophia saw where the real opportunity was. She didn't just start a food business, she created a movement. I turned off the TV, thinking about how much had changed in 1 year. We now employed over 200 people across our operations. Our culinary training program was sending graduates to top restaurants nationwide. We'd launched a foundation to help other immigrant-owned food businesses preserve their traditional recipes and methods. "Sophia," Miguel called from the kitchen, "come taste this." He stood at the prep station, an old photo propped up next to him. In it, he and my grandmother worked side by side in her original kitchen. I found another note in her recipe files. He said, stirring a pot of something that smelled incredible, a variation of the birria she never got to try. I tasted it, closing my eyes as flavors danced across my tongue. "It's perfect. Put it on tomorrow's special board. Call it Abuela's Dream. Later that evening, after the dinner rush, I sat in my grandmother's old office, now restored to look just as it had in the 60s. Her notebooks filled a shelf, their wisdom still guiding us. But next to them sat new notebooks, filled with our own innovations and adaptations. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. A young woman stood there, nervous but determined. "Ms. Reyes, I just quit my consulting job to start a Korean food truck. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I was hoping I could get your advice." I smiled, gesturing for her to sit down. "Let me tell you a story about choosing passion over prestige." My phone buzzed again. Forbes this time, wanting to feature us in their 30 Under 30 issue. Diana poked her head in with more updates. 3 new cities requesting franchise rights, a potential TV deal, and a major food supplier wanting to partner on our sauces and marinades. But those could wait. Right now, I had a different priority: helping another dreamer find the courage to bet on herself. Because success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving that when you honor your heritage, trust your instincts, and refuse to let others define your worth, anything is possible. As I looked out at our busy restaurant, watched our trucks return from another successful day, and thought about all the lives we touched, I knew my grandmother would be proud. Not just of the empire we built, but of how we built it. With heart, with authenticity, and with a commitment to lifting others as we rose. The corporate world had laughed when I chose a food truck over a corner office. Now they were studying our business model, trying to understand how a simple food truck had transformed into a $50 million enterprise in just 1 year. But I knew the secret wasn't in the business metrics. It was in every handmade tortilla, every family recipe, every employee who felt valued, and every customer who tasted not just food, but tradition, love, and the courage to follow your dreams. "Have fun being poor," they'd said. I was having fun, all right, building something far richer than money could measure. And this was still just the beginning.